Hey everybody, I am Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today, as part of the 13 Days of Halloween painting program, where we do a painting that is Halloween themed and spooky and cute from October 1st to October 13th every year, I have a much requested friend for you. He's a surprise for my community, and hopefully if you found us in search, he's a surprise for you. It's Slimer from Ghostbusters, and the great thing about this is very beginner friendly. You don't actually need to draw to do it because we have a traceable, and everything is something that a first-time painter can do as long as you're ready to get messy with Slimer. So get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me at this canvas right now. I'm going to show you how to make this. So the first thing I'd like you to notice on my materials is that I've got my 9x12 surface here. I have phthalo green, and this is nickel azo yellow, but you could just use cad yellow or Hansa yellow. And I have Mars black, or you could use carbon black. There's some titanium white, and you'll see I have it put out several times. I have a lot of paper towels underneath the surface, and that's to catch the mess. A little bit of preparation definitely will save you a lot of headache and aggravation later. And on messy projects, if you have wet wipes or baby wipes, it's always a good idea to have them around, especially if you're doing it with littles. Now I'm going to take this tool. This is an artist knife, and I'm going to use it to mix up a nice large amount of a kind of like radioactive yellow green. I am going to like this for the background because our first step is going to be to paint the entire background and then dry it before we start doing the drip effect. And what will come of that, I'm adding a little bit of white, just mixing in. If you don't have this, you can just do this with a brush. This is just a neat and tidy way for me to do that. Then I'm going to take a big brush and I'm going to go ahead and get it wet. And I will just brush the surface a little bit. This is not normally necessary, but we're going to be doing some really streaky, drippy effects, and so might as well start out the right way. I'm going to load up this wonderful color and just go ahead and set the entire canvas with this crazy kind of yellow-green, fabulous color. Back and forth, just whatever it takes to get it all in. Now, I've also got a mister bottle here. And I will show that to you, but I really want you to be relaxed. It's just whatever mister bottle you have laying around that has water in it. I wouldn't use hairspray, but anything you can fill with water will be just fine. So, all right, this is the background. This is all that you've got to do. You're going to want this to be completely dry for the next step. When your surface is super dry, you are ready for the next step. And again, as you'll notice, I have paper towels everywhere to catch mess. I have, now this is my number 8 cat's tongue, but really honestly, the brush is not going to be important. And I'm going to pull together a mix of greens and yellows, and I'm going to put them out in a pretty wet application. All right, so I'm going to just start this dripping process. You can even get a few little whites in here, just to get that paint going. Now, if your surface is super dry like mine is, that's actually not too bad of a thing, but periodically you're going to have to go through and kind of mist. This is just a mister, and I'm going to mist it. Now the necessariness of the paper towels comes really into play. As you're going, you can even come in with a wet brush, as you can see, and encourage little drips. This is why it's nice to have a fairly dry background when you begin. Just coming along there. See how kind of like loose and messy this is? This is not really dissimilar from, say, paint pouring. It's just a little more controlled, and you use a little less paint in it than you might on a pour. But if you're somebody who pours paint, that will work really well with this technique as well. It's good every once in a while to take this vertical, and you can see I'm just bringing different values of paint through. Just coming through here. Yellows and greens, sometimes a white. Just really loose through here. Very wet application. Now again, I'm going to mist. And you can see that's quite wet. And then what you're going to want to do is sit it vertical and allow that paint to begin to drip down. You can take water across if you need to, extra little bits of water, and move anything that needs to be moved. So here's a tip for me with some of these more economic boards. If you're not using a stretched canvas, as there's wet applications, they'll want a bow. The way to prevent that is to do one drip layer and allow it to dry thoroughly before doing another drip layer. That way you're never applying too much water to your surface, so it's not going to be as inclined to bow. When you have a nice base, a finishing touch that you're going to do is I'm going to take a little green and yellow and mix them together on my brush. And then I'm going to kind of do an edge offload. So I come to this edge and I'm going to drag the very wet paint, which is fairly concentrated, off my brush and allow it to start to drip down. Again, I don't have to worry about the mess because I made a little bit of preparation, so I'm not going to have that aggravation. And you can see as we're going that you're going to get a really great drip there coming down. So you're going to want that to be upward. There we go. I'm going to try to hold that in there and I'll give you some more drip action. It's a very, very drippy kind of offload your brush. If you need to go get more water, you do so as you go. And then you really want to hold it vertical. Patience is a virtue. And if you need to, you miss this and it will continue to run even more. And you can see that going down. There you go. Now, you at home, my suggestion is to allow this layer to dry a little bit. When it's tack dry, you could even accelerate that with a hairdryer. Flip it and do drips the opposing way. Allow those two layers to dry completely. And then come back here and I'm going to show you how to put in Slimer. When your surface is completely dry and exactly how you want it, this here was about 3 layers and took me a total with drying the layers in between maybe 30 minutes. So anywhere between that and an hour is what you might expect, depending on your humidity, how wet your application is. You know, if you're in a very arid region, it may dry very quickly. And if you're in a very humid region, it may take it a little bit longer. That's a little subject to those things, but mostly in that space. I like to do several of these at once if I'm enjoying them, because you can be letting them dry for a while and then you have a lot of projecting to do. I'm going to take a number 12 Silverwhite Round and I'm going to just load it with black paint. If I need to thin it with a little bit of water, I'll come in with a little drop of water. And I'm going to sketch in Slimer's face. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't draw or freehand, no worries. There's a traceable on the website, and I have a video about how to use those, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the little round of his nose, and I'm going to come over here and do a couple pretty curved out nostrils, a bit of exaggerated nostrils. And then I'm going to come up and add some 2 inner lines. When I know where his nose is, I can come in and add 2 round areas for his eyes. Just on the toe of my brush, kind of curving around there. I'm going to need to add some wrinkles here and some bind nasal kind of little fold back so we can kind of really see his nose. I'm going to come across for some wrinkles here. And then I'm going to bring kind of like some wrinkly little eyebrows here. The 11s, all you ladies know what those are because Slimer has 11s. I'm going to come inside the eye and make kind of a smaller little circle. He's got a really cool sort of really intense vibe about him. So that's a fun thing to capture. And you can't really do it wrong. Like, even though I have a lot of black there, when I come back with my white and my green, it'll clean that right up. I definitely want to talk about the divot under the nose. So I come back like that. Bring a little lip up. That's pretty cool. And then a little bit of that underlip. Then I'm going to come and do some teeth. Make some scallops for when we know we're going to have some big teeth. However you do him, whether you use the traceable or maybe your favorite screenshot, one of the things that I will suggest that you embrace is how big his teeth are. His character's super about his mouth. So that's something you definitely don't want to lose track of. I'm going to come down and start to talk about his little lips here. I'm going to give him a tongue coming out because he's super hungry. Bring this little stroke up. And again, don't feel like you've got to freehand it if you've never done that before. And just so you know, it's not cheating to use a traceable. It's just a technique. I'm going to go ahead and kind of make these little eyes sort of manic with some little wrinkly lines. They look a little eyelashy at this stage, but don't worry about that. And then we do the little cheeks here, because that's what he's got going on. You can also kind of come under his eyes and add a little bit of that extra stressy kind of wrinkle that's going on around there. This is pretty good. Rinse out if your paint is drying and go ahead and paint in all behind his mouth black. Okay, so we've got this kind of crazy character starting to be in. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out, and I'm going to make sure all the black is out. And we're going to come back with a little bit of our pure green, just some. Right? And let's come in and kind of exaggerate some of the features here. I don't want to take out all my yummy, wonderful pouring by any means, but I just want to exaggerate some of those places on him that might have some shadowing. I like that. You can come in under the nose and add a little detailing to the divot, the cheek. What's great about phthalo green is it tends to be transparent anyways. So honestly, this is working in your favor if something needed to work in your favor. I don't want to take out all of the tongue because I really like the drip in the tongue. I'm going to just add a few shadows. I'll come a bit under the lip with a bit of a shadow. And maybe right here with a bit of a shadow. Now, rinse out. And I'm going to come to the eye. I'm going to take nice white, totally white paint. Make sure it's fluid enough to go around. And we're going to paint around his eye. What I'm seeing is this is going gray. And what that is the paint underneath it is still wet. So I'm going to dry this real quick and come right back so I can do this white correctly. So that's dry. And now I know the white that I put down won't be grayed out. And I'm going to switch to a smaller brush so I don't have as hard of a time right there. And I'm going to load back up with some white and come back in and redefine that. And that's definitely brighter. Let's even switch our water to some cleaner water. These are just little touches and things that you can do to improve it. This is a small detail round brush. Specifically, it's a Sterling Studio brush, but it really isn't important. It's just you want a small detail brush that gives you a nice, easy to work with size for these eyes. So that looks pretty darn good. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to go ahead and get my green and come on the inside and kind of exaggerate the green in here. Really pop that in. And I'll let that have a dry for a minute and I'll come back and do a little black lining on that again. So I'm going to get my big brush that I had, the number 12, and I'm going to paint my teeth white. Just a little bit of a glaze of white. What's underneath can show. That's totally fine. I just want to add that little detail to them. You can see that starts to bring them to life. You could also do these with white and yellow and it would look pretty good. And they're supposed to be like kind of crazy teeth. So don't worry about like if it's streaky or whatever, because that's going to actually improve your painting. So you can come like in the directionality of the teeth to exaggerate it. I definitely am going to add a reflection to 2 spots on the tongue. Maybe a little bit right here, just to kind of imply that it's a little bit wet. And we can kind of maybe add some above the gums. And I might bring some of that here. I definitely want to exaggerate the cute little nose. So I'm going to get some white there. A little bit there. Just some last touches, and we are literally almost there with this cute, fun painting. So one of the things that can be great and help is I'm going to take a little bit of my black, not too much water on it, so if I have to wipe off on the paper towel. And I'm going to come here and add a little lip detailing, because he's got a bit of a lip detail. This sort of shading of the lips that you might see, just little flicking out, not anything too big, too substantial. You can add a little shadow under the tongue, and if you want to, you can come back and I like to take the brush and let the brush sort of do the work. I don't want to remove all of the really fun dripping that's super cute about this piece. Just kind of trying to exaggerate his mouth. And if you notice, I'm letting the filaments of the brush sort of separate, and that's how I'm getting that soft little kind of hairline that I have here. Just a little bit underneath on his top lip. Here we go. You might have a little exaggeration in those spots. Now I might come in and with just a nice black on the tip of the brush, make a little bit of a dot there. If I need to come back and fix anything around the eye, it's a good time to do it now. A little bit there. Just anywhere I feel like the lines could be improved or strengthened by a second coat. And that will happen actually quite a lot, where you'll look at something and be like, oh, you know, it would really help this is a little bit of a line to kind of improve that. Add some little reflections around the mouth. A second little reflection of white on the teeth. Just a little bit there. We're literally almost done. This is kind of wild, I think. There we go. Exaggerate. Maybe some of that. Come in and just one more little exaggeration around there. So we can really just see those features. So it's like he's coming out of this splashy canvas. I think we've gotten there. I think in this case, sometimes less is more, because you really want the drips and everything to show through. Nothing to do but give this wonderful little character a signature. I'm going to grab my detail brush and my black paint and come here on the side and put my little moniker on here. I hope that you had as much fun doing this great, messy, and isn't it perfect that it was messy because it's Slimer and it's messy? I think that's kind of some synergy there. I just think it was great to do. I hope you had fun. Go grab your wet wipes and clean up. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really, really soon. Bye-bye.